All right, I figure I'll do another one this morning. I'm gonna do Virgo and Pisces, which I find that a lot of interesting stuff comes up around this opposition. I've seen it in people's charts and the different dynamics that play out and stuff. But I think first of all, the important thing about this opposition is to look at the fact that these are both mutable signs, right? And while as the whole thing we talked before about Leo and Aquarius, and Leo is a fixed sign, so that is more of like this fixed position of a character of authority, or like the fixed protagonist in a story or something like this. Um, Rather than that, I think with these signs, the mutable really puts an emphasis on that these are things in motion, right? That if you see Virgo, let's start with Virgo. Virgo is in motion out of the summer into the autumn. The harvest season, the virgin in the field, harvesting grain, whatever it is. But basically, it's preparing for the journey into the underworld. And the journey into the underworld is an important concept in understanding the archetypes of astrology, because it's basically what we get if you follow the course of action from Virgo into Libra, and then ultimately with Scorpio, the fixedness, we're in the fixed autumn season, there's a kind of confrontation with the underworld, and that's all this kind of thing about Halloween, the Day of the Dead, and going into Christmas. There's the kind of thing of well, I mean, we'll get into all that, right? But the whole seasons is kind of like the seasonal death and rebirth kind of thing, and then things come back to life in the spring, right? And then so the opposite point of Virgo, which is preparing for the winter time, doing all this work and harvesting, is Pisces, which is coming out of the winter time. And then and just the being, it's kind of the end. It's the last sign, which it represents the end of the 12 sign process before you come back to Aries. So you got to understand that the flip side of Virgo, which is all about basically about being prepared for this kind of grueling process that's about to come, right? Like the journey to the underworld is not necessarily an easy thing, right? And so you better be prepared, right? So you've got an earth sign is all about practicality, right? It's all about, and Mercury is to do with the mind, to do with communication, to do with things like Virgo tends to be all about like planning. I've noticed Virgo wants to have a plan and have things be organized, and when problems come up, we're going to be ready to handle them. Right? This is the pragmatic Mercury Earth thing going on. Right? Contrast that with which is the opposite, a Jupiter in Pisces. Pisces Jupiter. Right? So so Pisces. If Virgo's anticipating something that's what's going to happen, Pisces is remembering what has happened already. And Pisces is like, you can't change what's already happened. You can't go back and fix the past. All you can do is process it and feel, work with this stuff and let it go. And it's like, well, you got a water sign here, right? So water is all about the emotions, about the really feeling into it and stuff like that. And whereas Virgo is like, Virgo wants to have a plan. Virgo is like, okay, the feelings, like, let's worry about that later. We need a plan right now. You can worry, have your therapy group and talk about everything, but right now we're going to get organized, right? Pisces is like opposite from that. Time, if we wanted to get organized, we should have been organized, before all this shit happened. It's too late for that. Now we have to grieve. Now we have to really process the emotions of what has just happened, and it's really it's like the digestion. I've heard it called like the digestion center of the psyche. It's like all the stuff that happens in our life, all the trauma, all the mess, and all this kind of stuff. Pisces is kind of the process of where we emotionally break it down, and it's a powerful sign for the deeper emotional work. Really, it's a good. But I think the problem is that are all Pisces able to manifest that in, like, if you're talking all of a sudden now I'm going to talking about Pisces as the character thing, right? The personality astrology. If you look at Pisces people, you you might have varying degrees of like success, or but there's something about this thing of the grieving and the breaking down and all this kind of stuff where, it might not look like the Virgo might look like they're getting their shit together. With Pisces, it might look like it's just falling apart, basically, right? And that creates a pretty dramatic opposition, basically, where there can be a lot of tension and a lot of problems coming up around that. Because it could, and Pisces has this thing where part of the Pisces complex is the martyrdom thing, right? Whereas Virgo wants to handle everything and get everything problem solved and fixed. Pisces is like, I'm dying for your sins here, basically, like to put it dramatically, I'm talking about the archetypes here. Pisces is like, there's no helping it anymore. It's too late for that, and I suffer, something that no one can help. Basically, it's like, and that's all. it's a heavy trip. It's like that's why in Christianity the whole thing about the Christian fishes and Jesus Christ being the prophet of the age of Pisces, that it's a really, you're not talking, when Jesus is on the cross, he's not getting prepared for anything. That's the final surrender kind of thing. That is with Pisces, kind of, it's not you. What are you getting ready for at that point, except for the resurrection, right? So like that's basically, that's kind of, Pisces is coming more at that level. And I think the problem here is that already I'm bringing in these huge religious, spiritual themes with Pisces. With Virgo, not quite so interesting. The Virgo doesn't do quite as well with the watery depths of mysticism that Pisces really captures. Virgo is more like, okay, so like this is the list of things we need to get done. Who's doing them? Can we meet the deadline? And Pisces is like I will be born again. I have already died. This is my, and well, can we so who's doing the dishes, right? They're very different energies, and they don't really go together very well. But okay, the things that rather than just talk about the conflict between Virgo and Pisces, the thing is like. I was by doing some notes, trying to brainstorm on this, and there you can see though how Virgo and Pisces are actually complementary opposites that work together. And I think like the image I had for this really, but I mean maybe this is because we're in the age of the coronavirus and everybody's talking about like what will happen if we have to make moonshine, right? if whatever society collapses and the liquor stores aren't around. So if you're making moonshine or if you're doing some sort of alcohol brewing or something like that, it's really important to have clean, sterilized stuff you're working with, right? So this is like the stereotype of Virgo as the neat freak. It's like if you're perfect with your sterilization process and how all the things you're doing, you're brewing are like to the dot, what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with some nice wine, some nice beer, whatever, right? And then what happens at the end of that? You're drinking and you're getting drunk, right? So it's like the Pisces, the intoxication, Pisces drinking the wine and getting drunk, there might not be that much productivity coming from the Pisces angle of it. But that wouldn't be able to happen if it wasn't for Virgo knowing what the fuck they were doing, brewing that wine. You know what I'm trying to say? So like Pisces owes something to Virgo. And also the whole point, what are you brewing the wine for anyways, right? What's the point of all this preparation? It's to have the Pisces experience, right? So the two in that, I mean, I don't know if like, I mean, I'm not promoting alcoholism here necessarily, but I think that is like, you can see that relationship between Virgo and Pisces. You could also say like the person who's like, the intoxication of, like the stoner versus the person who's like the expert growing the crops or something like this. There's a parallel, but they're both like what's driving all the work is something that's like ultimately it's more than just about being organized and having your shit together. There's something higher that connects to something maybe. I don't know. It's that water thing. It's not really rational, right? Like there's a lot of rationality that goes into the thing, but ultimately, what the goal isn't really a rational outcome. But there's something deeper and I think that Pisces, I think I like to keep the Pisces irrational. Basically, it's something that you can't really explain, but this is what we got to do anyway. It's kind of thing, and it's kind of has a deeper spiritual undercurrent to it. And but you can already see that like the Pisces might just seem like a loony to like the rationalist Virgo, basically. But there's lots of stuff going on with the Virgo Pisces axis. Um, I think they've got 10 minutes here. I'm like trying to keep them sort of like short and sweet, so I'll leave this one here.